Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined by my co-host,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. And today we'll be reviewing Knock at the Cabin Door. Or Knock at the Cabin? Knock at the Cabin. My apologies.
The door just seems like it should be
right,
there.
It should be there. Like, what do I knock at? Knock at anything. But no, knock at the cabin. So for those of you just joining us for the first time, how we like to do podcasts is we will give you a spoiler-free review first. So if you have not seen this movie, and I don't blame you if you haven't, it just came out yesterday, check it out. Listen, but we won't spoil anything. We'll tell you what we think. From there, if you feel, hey, these guys seem to know what they're talking about, I trust their opinion, I should go see this. Or, if the opposite's true, go ahead, go see it, or not. But that first 5-10 minutes, we won't spoil anything. From there, we will then give you a play-by-play of the movie and then really kind of go in depth about what we thought about certain scenes, and we're going to be a lot of spoilers there. But if you haven't seen it yet, don't worry. First 5-10 minutes, we won't spoil a thing. We'll let you know beforehand. Mike, spoiler for review. What do we got?
Okay, so Knock at the Cabin. It is a MNight Shyamalan joint. If you,
It is.
And I have to admit, like, I've had a certain, not frustrated. It's something.
It's the trees. The trees.
There's something about MNight Shyamalan. I feel like he's a very classic case of what not to do as a filmmaker. And when I say that, it was just like he started when he got his big break with Sixth Sense.
Yeah,
and then
which was phenomenal.
Untouchable.
Yeah,
amazing, right? So his freshman and sophomore efforts were so great that it was like Hollywood said you can do no wrong.
Yeah,
and I think so they didn't dial him back. They didn't. There was no notes or anything like that. And you've seen in the past, after those few films, like his first 3, I believe, because I think Signs was okay.
Signs was decent. The Village was okay.
No, it wasn't. Don't even.
I never saw The Village. I actually haven't seen it.
It was like from The Village on up until Split. It seemed like it was just a lot of diminishing returns. It was just like I've had this kind of like, why do they keep giving it?
Yeah. Unbreakable was good. Split was good.
Split was good, but it was like that was a decade and some change.
Yeah, that's true. That was after The Trees.
Yeah,
and Marky Mark.
So, but what I will say was just like I'm reading reviews and watching this one. It was just like they say this is a return to form for MNight. I don't know if it's a return to form per se, but I believe that he has stripped down a lot of the M. Night Shyamalan isms, right?
Yeah,
where it's just like it's still a lot there. Like it was frustrating how close up a lot of the camera work was.
Okay.
Because I was expecting something to happen.
Yeah.
I think because it was billed as a horror film. There's not too much horror, which I appreciated.
Yeah,
well, actually, not any really. I think there was more thriller elements and stuff like that.
There were like horror ideas.
There you go.
But it wasn't really a horror.
And I think that's what messed me up with so much like close-ups on the face gives you nothing to turn away from really if a jump scare or something happens. So I think that's what messed me up because it was the scenario that they were put in. So if you don't know, it's just like these intruders break into
they knock at the cabin. That's all we know so far. This is spoiler free.
Anyway, they approach a family in a cabin, right? So just like that's all you know. I lost where I was going, but I don't. Anyway,
what would you give it? 0 to 5?
I would give it a 3.5.
Okay.
I think it was better than I thought it'd be, but it felt like it was missing something. I was reading a few reviews that said that. It was like the concept was basic. I ended up reading a synopsis of the work that it was based on. So obviously you actually read it, so you have a deeper understanding than I would. It seems like I think I would have liked the way they were in the book better. Yeah, a lot better.
But you can't really do that on the movie.
I think you can. I mean, I think you can.
Yeah, we'll get into it later.
But yeah, so I say 3.5. It was like the performances were great. A very, like I said, it's a simplified M. Night Shyamalan. It's very much like a bottle episode. Yeah, it was like if there's one setting. Obviously, you see, I guess, different parts of this cabin
for sure.
But for the most part, it's just one setting. Yeah, it's very character driven. I think what's frustrating at times is the fact that since there was so little action or whatever, that it was very expository heavy. Okay. Which can either add or take away in a film, right? Yeah. Like you need it in a book. You need it on radio, like or something, or even on stage. But it was like when you move to film, like you can show not tell a lot better. Yeah. So I feel like there was so much dialogue, and I'm realizing that is a quintessential part of a lot of M. Night, because he's not going to be your Michael Bay's or or anybody like that. So he's going to give you these character But anyway, yeah, performances were dope. I'm really loving Batista's turn. I enjoyed him since I don't know if you saw Hotel Artemis.
I have not actually.
A lot of indie stuff. Obviously, Blade Runner 2049.
Yep.
I'm enjoying him as an actor
for sure.
And I think he's still suffering from the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, or even The Rock, where it's just like, why is this giant here?
It's hard to have that.
But I think they do fairly well. I think the themes were kind of cool with it's a family of a same-sex couple and their adopted daughter. So it's like they kind of. Their perception of it was just like, oh, these people are crazy because they're homophobic or they're overly religious or something like that. So it was just like they leaned into telling that story from there. I think it did well with its use of flashbacks, kind of, and I think that's what it did well, right? With the not telling you often about certain elements, they actually showed you and gave you flashes of the characters, who they were and stuff like that.
For sure.
But yeah, enjoy. Like I said, I had to remove my M. Night Shyamalan bias, and it was like when I realized that it was a lot better. The little girl, I believe her name is Kristen Chu or something like that, but she was really good. At first, she was kind of annoying me.
You just don't like children.
I think it was like one of those things, like, little girl, if you don't calm down, this scenario is not. This is not Paw Patrol. I'm gonna need you. This is not one of your shows where children solve everything. I'm gonna need you to sit down. But no, she was great. She was very sweet, and she had range.
Yes,
and it was like that's something you rarely find, and I rarely see in a child actor, right? I guess you're seeing that with the homegirl from The Last of Us,
absolutely,
right? But yeah, so 3.5.
Yeah,
it was a little bit better than I thought it'd be. I kind of wish for a certain twist, not forcing him.
What a twist!
Not forcing him to do a twist, but I would have kind of liked to see seeing it told a different way. But that's just something personal. It has nothing to do with whatever he delivered. But yeah, so 3.5.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4. I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. I like a stripped down performance, so I agree with a lot of what you said, and because of that, that's why I really liked it. Like a stripped down performance of there are a few other actors, but really you have 7 actors in this.
Yep.
That's really all you truly have. And it's 7 actors kind of in most of the movie takes place in one room in that cabin. In a confined space and that one setting. And they did a phenomenal job. And so let me also say I might be partially biased because I read the book. It's by Paul Tremblay. It's phenomenal. Cabin at the End of the World, really good. He's a phenomenal author. I'll shout him out once or twice. I tweeted at him after this movie, and he liked it. So, I'm kind of glowing after that. But
so clearly, he's not busy. So
it's
not a good sign.
But
actually, we're going to scratch that. It was probably going to try to push this to us.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to blacklist us now. No, but yeah. So I really loved the book. I like Dave Bautista a lot. I grew up watching wrestling in WWE, so seeing Bautista as that, and then seeing how much he has really strived to become not just another big action star. He wants to be in good movies. Yes. He wants to be an actor. And as another guy, I'm 6'5". I'm a big dude. I kind of recognize that's kind of hard to do. Like as a 6'5" dude,
because you get typecast before you open your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And Tom Cruise is 4'7", so
all right. The man's 4'9".
No,
on a solid day.
I think he's 5'8" or 5'9".
So,
5'7", 5'8". But so and he's an action star. So to have other action stars that are so much shorter, anytime on camera, you're going to have a dude like Dave Bautista just towering over everyone, just standing out. So the fact he has these roles, even with that, is great, and to see his growth. So I thought his performance was great. I love the source material. I really enjoy the stripped down nature of it. It's dialogue heavy, but you really get a lot. I didn't think it was too much exposition per se, as much as just a lot of dialogue and a lot of talking.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, so that's incorrect. There was a lot of dialogue. I think to me it was just too much. A lot of talking, just kind of my eyes glass over at times.
Yeah. Well, you must not like Quentin Tarantino movies.
No, not his. Please, no.
Yeah, but yeah, it's
talk about another one putting himself inserted him into his own movies.
Yeah, or just tons of dialogue. But yeah, so I really liked it a lot. I say, go check it out. Yeah. Solid movie. 4 out of 5. Part of me was like, do I even think it's a 4.5? But no, there's some things where I think it does. Some weaknesses of the movie. Some scenes fall a little flat, I would say, and some things feel not as great in place. And even some of the performances as a whole by everyone were great, but I remember seeing 1 or 2, and I'm like, that feels a little off, or like, it doesn't feel like it's not hitting that same way, and it was not hitting the same way enough where I felt, where it kind of like took me out of it almost. However, I still think as a whole, everyone did great, which was awesome, and 4 out of 5, definitely go see this movie. Remember, the only movie I ever get a 5 out of 5 is The Mummy, so I'm not really giving 5s. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, all right. Before we get into some background and our play-by-play of the movie, this is the end of the spoiler-free review. So if you want to like head out, that's totally fine. Just make sure you join back up with us in a little bit. And a quick word from our sponsors. Still this guy. My name is Edward Hunt. I'm on the Just Be team. I'm a real estate agent in the DMV. That's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We're with Compass Real Estate, a phenomenal brokerage that's nationwide. If you would like any advice or a consultation on real estate, how's the market looking, what's going on, please feel free to hit me up anytime. Even if you're not in DC, Maryland, or Virginia, again, Compass is nationwide. So we have a ton of amazing agents all throughout the country that I can connect you with. Feel free anytime. All right, background, Mike, what do we got?
Okay, so Knock at the Cabin. It was released February 3rd, 2023. 2023.
Whatever yesterday was.
It is, like you said, it's based on is it a short story novel?
It's a full novel.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a big boy book. I read big boy books.
I paused because I was just like, I felt like that had nothing to do with the novel itself.
That was more me.
If I told you it was a short story, you're going to be like, no, I read big boy books, cover, sir.
Exactly.
So it's based on the book, The Cabin at the End of the World.
Again, by Paul Tremblay. Yeah.
The runtime is an hour and 40 minutes, so that's also, I enjoyed that it wasn't too long.
Yeah, that's fair. It wasn't a very long movie.
I guess because also once they get going with how they have it set up, they don't have much time. They can't really drag it out.
It gets started like from the get-go.
Yeah. Like we said, the budget was $20 million. We don't know the box office because it just came out. Yeah. Currently, right now, and it's like obviously this will fluctuate. The Rotten Tomato score is a 69. I believe it was like 71 at some point, but 71, 74 for critics and audience. So not too bad. I think, like I said, a lot of reviews that I saw were saying that it was great. It was like a stripped down, what's the name? Shyamalan directorial thing, but it also seemed like it was just missing something. The genre is, so it says mystery thriller, and I believe drama, not horror.
Yeah, because there's really not a
horror. It's not too much horror. Obviously, M. Night Shyamalan, we mentioned it earlier. The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs were his his first three. Kind of, I guess Signs was a little bit dwindling, but also it was like those three were like bang, 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 like bangers, and then he kind of just could do no wrong, and then you get
he did a lot of wrong.
The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, Avatar: The Last Airbender, After Earth. And then so like, this was boom, 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 and it's just like, why do they keep hot? And I think that's the beauty of like art and stuff like that. It was just like you can still work, right? Like not just work, but it was just like there's other, like you get more chances to to tell a great story or something like that. Because all those flops, and then he puts out Split.
Yeah, solid movie.
That was solid. I mean, I don't think he necessarily needed to attach it to the Unbreakable universe.
Yeah, that was weird.
Because then Glass was, and it was one of those things where like, so I think I only paid attention to Glass. Only paid attention to Split because I heard Glass was coming out. Because it was just like M. Night Shyamalan, I just wrote it off as hard pass.
Yeah.
And then I saw Glass, and I'm a huge fan of Samuel Jackson. He's like one of your greatest character actors.
Oh, for sure.
Like, there's no movie he's not in where his wig isn't just leaning. Like somebody just shook him, and it was all right. And see,
go for it. Yeah, just have fun with it. Yeah.
So it's like I was really excited about Glass, so that's why I watched Split. But just kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
And then Old was just like, what were you going with this?
I skipped it. I was like,
and then so that's the woman from Old was also in this. Sabrina.
Okay.
So it's hopefully a return of form for Shyamalan. He's had some flops for like over a decade, and then like he's kind of making a resurgence. We'll see. With the performance of this one. And then, like we said, it's starring Dave Bautista as Leonard, Ben Aldridge as Andrew, Jonathan Groff as Eric, Christian Chu, I believe it's Cui. I don't.
Sure.
As Wen.
Cui.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not
sure.
Hey, I don't. Yeah. So apologies for pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah, apologies. Rupert Grint as Redmond.
Ron Weasley.
Nikki Amuka Bird as Sabrina. That's the one who also played in Old. and then Abby Quinn as Adrian. So like you said, a very small cast, very focused.
Yes.
Yeah. This is something I feel like this is something they could have filmed over at most a month. Something like that. But it was the attention to detail to the characters and maybe not so much the nature of it all or anything like that, but it's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the background that I have.
Cool.
Oh, sorry. The tagline is "Save your family or save humanity. Make the choice."
Family. All right, keep moving. All right, done. All right.
You just saved me an hour for it.
I'm like, I'll catch y'all later. All right. See you next week, everybody. No, that's a hard choice. It's a really hard choice.
Is it? We'll talk about it later, but I need proof, baby.
So, from what I know about this movie, there involves a cabin. All right.
Yeah.
There's a.
I believe it's not in the city. In a forest area.
In a forested area. You don't say. So, yeah, how do we start this thing?
So it opens up, we get shots of nature, and this young girl, Wen, is collecting grasshoppers.
Yeah. Actually, quick time, even, because I was looking at my notes, there's the opening credits. The opening credits reminded me of like old school horror-esque.
Yeah, what was it like? I believe it was like, not autopsy, it was like more about auditing or something like that. It was like accounting something. Like,
yeah, well, there's a bunch of creepy pictures. I think that was the big thing. They had like all those creepy drawings on the...
but it was just like the paper was like...
I think the paper changed because there was a menu at one point in time. Okay. There was something else. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because all four of them had different jobs. So all four of them, they said they felt compelled to draw, and we find this out later, but I'm just putting it together. So I think that was supposed to be what they were drawing. They were like, I need to draw this image. So they just drew it on whatever papers around them. So one's like a second grade paper, one's like a restaurant menu.
Okay, so maybe,
that.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
But that's how so we open with like opening credits, and that was like kind of old school horror. It always reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one, because you have the opening credits while there's just like weird, pictures of skulls and other random stuff. And you're like, whoa, that's kind of creepy and disconcerting, but fun. But then we see...
so we see this little girl, Wen, she's collecting grasshoppers and into a jar, and then like, she's not just collecting them, but like she's taking notes, naming them, talking to them. I think to name them after her classmates and stuff like that. Yeah. And
that's why she was squashing them. She wasn't actually squashing them. She was not doing that.
And I think it was cute because it was like you could see that like she's doing this for a purpose. Like she says later that I think she wants to be like a veterinarian or just work with animals. And this is like kind of those how it starts. And it reminded me of like my best friend from high school. His little sister she was like, I wanted like 7 or something like that. She wanted to be a chef, and I just thought it was dope that to have that be that young. And I don't know what you want to do, but like that profession, right? Because people usually go to your cops or just athletes or whatever.
But could she cook though?
She switched. She's in college now to be a teacher, so like she shifted careers. In over the decades or so. But it was just like I thought it was like really cool. Like it was like something off, just. A chef, like who aspires to be that, when there's, animal doctor out there or space alien,
I want to be an archaeologist, so,
and so, she's vacationing with her parents and she sees in the woods a man approaching her. And this man is Leonard. And he, what is it? He introduces himself as Leonard. She says, I don't talk to strangers.
Stranger danger.
But then she continues to talk to him.
All right. She didn't just continue. She goes, I don't talk to strangers, but what's your name? And I'm like, all right.
No, she goes, I don't talk to strangers. And then Leonard, being who he is, and we'll find out later, was just like, well, maybe I'll tell you about myself so we won't be strangers anymore. Yeah. And so they start talking. He says that... he asked her about her birthday, and she said it's in 6 days. He also, they can just kind of ask questions back and forth to kind of get to know one another, and that's when you learn that she wants to be, work with animals. And I guess he makes her feel comfortable with him by like trying to catch grasshoppers, and he immediately just catches one, and she's like really impressed. And it was like that's what you can see the kids, and that's why it's terrifying. Kids. On high alert, but also just easily impressed and stuff like that. So,
and it's very much like he opens with, "I want to be your friend." It's like, "I want to be your friend. Maybe we can be friends." which is like twofold. One, as you were saying with kids, like you could tell a kid, hey, don't talk to strangers, but if someone goes up really nice, which really, that is terrifying, honestly, to think about. I don't have kids at the moment, but oh God. Yeah, but very much that he's folks like, oh, I want to be your friend, which kind of even speaks to what's going to happen in the movie and how much he wishes, I truly feel like he wishes he didn't have to do what he's going to do.
And so as you kind of notice that as he's talking to Wen, he's checking his watch and also kind of hesitantly checking the woods, like from where he had come. And I think Wen picks up on this a bit because she's obviously a very smart little girl. And she sees 3 other people approaching from the same direction that Leonard had come with kind of makeshift weapons. And this is when she gets on high alert. And as she's about to run away, I think Leonard is telling her, he's basically saying he's sad for what he has to do, but what's going to happen, he doesn't want it to happen, but he needs her family's help to save the world.
Exactly. And he's like, tell your parents that when we knock, let us in.
Yeah.
And like, that's creepy as shit. Yeah.
And so she runs into the cabin and her fathers are sitting on the back porch. I think, just having wine, eating cheese. They're on vacation.
Exactly.
And so like she's freaking out like there's people outside. He says they need our help to save the world or something like that. And as parents, just like you're not believing your child. Like,
and they think it's some like make believe something's going on, but she's like, come inside, come inside, come inside, and like grabs them and they rush in. And with that, something I really appreciate is just you're thrown into this movie, man.
Yeah.
It's like from the get-go, it's just this happens, and now we're in on it. Yeah. Oh, and just because I thought about this when Leonard and Wen were talking, I liked the close-ups of it. Was like this really like the camera was right on the face, and it was.
I think that was fine. I think later on, because of the fact that like when certain things started happening, that's when I was just like, because I was also since it is a horror, since it's a thriller, I was curious how graphic or certain things were going to be. So you got chicken. Okay. So having that camera up close, I'm not able to like avert my gaze or something like that. Yeah. So it was just me being a cautionary.
Fair. Okay.
Being on edge about what's going to happen. Right? Yeah. So like the less camera space
is all I can see.
Yeah. So I think that's why I was. But yeah, you're right. In certain moments, those close-ups really it takes you out of the location, the venue, whatever it is, and you're just focused on these people.
All you can focus on their face and what.
And I was like, that's great. Like I said, I think it was just like watching enough movies to know horror, know jump scares, know these different things. Just like that's how you get me. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So. Like Leonard said, he knocks on the door and he says, just asking to be let in.
Yeah.
Right? And there's an exchange between,
would you let him in?
This is I don't know. So 2 things. One, this is another thing when Leonard and Wen were talking, she mentioned that she was on vacation with, she said, Daddy Eric.
Yes.
And he asked, like, why do you call your father by his first name? And he was like, well, that's to tell the difference.
Yeah.
So that was another thing, them not realizing, leading to later, it was just like, it didn't matter who was there. They didn't know that part.
Yeah.
And so, like, when he knocks on the door, I believe Eric answers, and he goes, is that Daddy Eric or Daddy Andrew?
Yeah.
And he was like, this is Eric.
And like, how do you know our names like this? Yeah.
And it's just like, when, God damn it?
We told you not to talk to strangers, and what do? You give them our life story.
Now he has my social security number, all my bank statements.
Come on.
But so, like, there is that initial exchange where he's trying to be peaceful about it, and then, like, you see both Andrew and Eric peeking out of the window to see who it is, and it was like, that was that thing, and they saw Leonard, and they go, Jesus, he's huge.
He's huge, yeah.
Because you can't not address Batista being a giant.
In fact, he's towering over it. You can even see in this picture right here. I mean, the man towers over everybody. So that was like, this is a great role for him because even in the book, Leonard was a really big guy.
Yeah.
But
I think he was a bit younger in the book, it seemed like.
Probably, yeah. He's probably a little younger. But
still a giant.
Yeah, still a giant.
Lovable giant. We're talking of mice and men.
Yeah.
But so they have an exchange. They try to call the cops. So like they're in a cabin. This is why I don't do cabins. Number one, remoteness sounds
Truly hate cabins. We went to one and we were terrified. I'm like, dude, we're just going. It's fine.
But yeah, so their cell phones don't work, and then but there's a landline, but they've cut the phone line.
Yep.
And I love how Sabrina goes, "Yeah, we had to cut the phone line," and it seemed like once again these, if you will get it in a minute, but it was just like the reactions to the four that are the intruders, we call them, is very much like they don't want to do this either. I think you got that in the trailer, and you're very much getting this even as they're outside. I think they mentioned like there's like a time crunch in a way, but it was just like there is this hesitance to do what they feel needs to be done. And so they cut the phone lines because that's the first thing that Andrew and Eric want to call the cops. And then I think Leonard tries one last time, and Andrew goes, "Well, I have a gun, so come in here if you want to." And Eric goes, "Did you bring that thing?" Yeah. First of all, stop whispering so loud.
Yeah. Bro, everyone can hear.
Go with the damn lie. I got a sword in here.
You got a sword. You hear it? There's tigers in here. We're fine. We have a tiger pit. Hey, we got it. It'll be nice.
Just go with the damn lie. Try to save my family, you jackass. But so he mentions, Andrew mentions that he left the gun in a lockbox, a safe box in the car.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you hear Rupert saying he's bluffing.
Yeah.
So now, like, in there, once again, there's this time crunch. So I think Rupert goes around the back, and you see Wen closing windows and locking them. Eric and Andrew push a couch in front of the back door, and like Ty, I think tie something on it to try to like
try and keep
reinforce
it.
it.
You're trying to like barricade the house.
They're just trying to barricade the house. Yes.
Yeah.
But somehow Sabrina makes it in through the kitchen.
Sabrina, I think there's probably just another side door or window or something.
And so she's, once again, still, like, she has her weapon, but it's not, like, she doesn't try to attack initially. Yeah. And then so her, like, I think Eric had armed himself with, like, a fire poker. Yeah. And so they kind of go back and forth fighting. Rupert gets in, not Rupert, God damn it, we'll go with character names. Yeah. Redmond gets in through the back. And so now you have Sabrina and Eric going at it, fighting, kind of like sword fighting. Yeah. And then Redmond and Andrew go, and Andrew is whooping Redmond's ass. I was like, God damn. It was clinical what he was doing. I'm just going, he's had it now.
I'm like, throw in the towel. Yeah.
And then, so Andrew subdues Redmond, but Sabrina gets the best of Eric, and he hits his head.
Yeah, she like knocks him over, like sweeps his legs, and he head.
And then immediately, like you said, like we've said through this whole thing, it was just like he falls, hurts his head, and she immediately goes, "I'm a nurse. I can help." So she goes to tend to his wound. So it is very much this thing where it's like they're doing this. There must be something that's forcing them. It's not a choice. In a way. And so Leonard comes in through the basement. Yeah, I think because he had broken through the cellar.
Yeah, he breaks into the cellar. Goes upstairs, then he breaks the basement door.
Yeah, I don't know why he knew the front door. I think he did want to show off.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they tie up Eric and Andrew.
Yes.
And then we get a flashback. And this is what I was saying about him being able to tell the story of these characters, Eric and Andrew, through these flashbacks without having to exposit or do dialogue. And it was, the first one was just simple. It was just like there's this couple sitting across from Andrew and Eric. You find out that that's Andrew's parents.
Andrew or Eric's parents?
I believe they were Andrew's. Because remember, Eric called his mom called his mom.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah. I couldn't remember at the very beginning whose parents they were.
Yeah, it was Andrew's parents.
Yeah.
And
that explains a lot even with Andrew's character too. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense then. Yeah.
And so they're sitting there and it's obviously a very tense situation. I don't believe he was coming out. I think maybe they were telling him that he was
I think it was very clear. I'm not 100% sure it was about kids, but it was very much like the parents were sitting there awkwardly. They're like, "That's a really nice refrigerator you have." Yeah. And then they leave. Yeah. And then Andrew's like, they were here. They drove 7 hours to be here 45 minutes. So,
and that's what I was saying, so Eric, he gets a call and it was like, it's my mom asking how it went. And then he says, I think the only reason I brought this up because he says always together.
Yes.
And I think that's their they're centering their mantra. It's something.
Well, it's so much with the flashbacks of like them exploring their relationship. Yeah. You can tell from these flashbacks that they care about each other, that they love each other. And then also you can see from the flashback that Andrew's parents are very uncomfortable with the fact he's homosexual.
Yes,
they don't like it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and through the flashbacks, you do see this. It builds both their characters.
Exactly. Yeah. So it explains why Andrew feels the way he does about certain things, and Eric feels the way he does about certain things as we continue on.
And once again, you're gonna have to. You didn't need dialogue for that. Yeah, this is a very well done.
Yeah.
And so we jump back to present time in the cabin. Both Eric and Andrew are tied up with rope.
Yep.
And then you get the 4 intruders introducing themselves, starting with Sabrina. She's a nurse from California.
Yeah, she was California. She's been an ICU nurse for 5 years. Spent all of her life savings to go over here. She's not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Nurses, I'm sorry.
Then you have Leonard. He's a 2nd grade teacher and also like a coach.
Yep.
And then
Redmond.
So initially, and once again, you see the character traits. So it's just like he's kind of like, we wasted time like waiting for him because, as we see, Eric has a concussion, so they had to wait for him to
wait for a few hours.
For him to regain consciousness.
Yeah.
And so he says that initially he doesn't want to, but I think Leonard is like, this will be easier if they know that they weren't targeted, if they know about us.
If they know we're real people.
Yes.
We're not just some crazy psychopaths going for
this. So Redmond tells that he works for the gas company, making sure that people's houses don't blow up.
Yeah.
He had done a
time in prison
for some stupid things he'd done in his when he was younger.
Yeah.
And then you meet Adrienne. Adrienne. She is a chef, or she works at a restaurant in DuPont, DC.
Which one? She's at a Mexican restaurant in DuPont, DC. What was the one we went through for our buddy Zane? For his, I like to think it's that one. For brunch years ago now. It was 2-3 years ago.
Maybe.
It's right off of DuPont Circle. I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, I think it's that Mexican restaurant. It was very tasty. I bet she cooked it.
So they introduce themselves.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, Leonard steps up and tells them why they're there.
Yeah.
And he says that they've all had visions that led them to this house. They have never met before this.
Yeah.
And that they need the family to make a choice. And it's either you sacrifice one of your family members of 3, so either Andrew, Eric, or Wynn. And it has to be a willing sacrifice. Yeah. And then they also need to go through with the deed of sacrificing the person.
The 4 can't do it themselves.
Family members have to both choose.
Yeah.
And execute the sacrifice.
Yeah, and that person can't kill themselves. That's the big thing. You can't off yourself. The other 2 have to help, or one of the other 2 have to.
And so if they do this, they will save the world from the apocalypse.
Yep.
And automatically Andrew goes, pass.
Yeah, pass, fuck you. Hey, keep it him. No, absolutely not.
And so there is this kind of pushback. It was will you save it? That's what I think the 4 are arguing, you won't sacrifice one of your family for the rest of humanity. It was no.
Yeah. Well, especially too. I mean, you're just now seeing it for the first time. I don't believe
you. And also,
I
think talking about Andrew, and we'll see later, was he has a certain disdain for humanity.
Yeah.
Even though he is a humane's lawyer or something like that.
Yeah, he's a lawyer, but it's because he's been targeted.
Yes. But so just they, and this is another thing, they assume that especially the way Leonard is dressed, I will say, I think that's what threw it off.
Yeah.
He did look like your religious zealot or something.
Okay. Yeah. A little.
He was like a button-up shirt tucked in and tucked in the pants.
Yeah.
So he did give a youth pastor.
Yeah, exactly. And so right now they're thinking that they're being targeted.
Yeah, there's some conversion thing or something like that. And then they're all saying, I think this was a bit of the humor.
Yeah.
And the only moments of humor really. Where he was we had no idea. You did. We are not homophobic.
There's not a homophobic bone in our bodies. I'm okay, you're telling that to the couple.
Even Redmond was this is a huge shock to all of us. And so there's a bit of levity in this, this very high tense situation. I thought was kind of funny because it also shows that like you were saying, you do see this hesitance as each one, whatever the 4 the intruders are doing, there is a hesitance to it. It's not it's not like The Strangers or something like that. It's just this is deliberate.
Stranger to the Purge, where they're just no, we're targeted. No, it's not that.
And so, what else? So,
they say no.
Because they say no, Redmond steps up and he's the first one to, I guess, get sacrificed.
Yeah. Well,
they do some ritual.
Release. Yeah.
They do some ritual where, Redmond kneels in front of in front of Andrew and Eric, and Wen's there as well, but she's not tied up.
Yeah, they're letting her kind of run.
Yeah, so and they're telling her to look away, and Redmond goes, "Don't look away," or whatever.
Especially to Eric, and Eric's like, "You look at me while this happens."
Yeah. And so he covers his head with not a bag, but like kind of a cloth.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cheesecloth. Like imagine like a cheesecloth that you could, like a cheese bag. He covers his head with this white cloth bag, and then he's on his knees in front of the two of them,
and then like Sabrina and Adrian like kind of do this walk around him, and then they start beating him with these makeshift weapons.
One big just wham,
because they all have weapons. It was like a sledgehammer and like it seems like an axe or something.
But they're like homemade. It's like a pitchfork with a knife tied on the end of it, or a sledgehammer,
knife wrench.
Exactly. Literally, it's knife wrench, or like a sledgehammer with a knife tied on it.
So this is you see that they. I think this is what kind of turned me to the side of the intruders. Or just like, well, you can't force somebody else to do something that you wouldn't do, right?
Yeah.
In a way, so it's just like you do see that they believe in this so much that they're willing to die for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and it's like, what do they say every time? Humanity has been found judged.
Yes.
Or like, humanity has been found judged, and then wham.
Yeah.
But something I liked is that it's not very gory. Like there's
and
blood.
I think, like I said, that's what I was worried about, especially with so much closes up to the face and things like that. I was just like, I'm not trying to. I'll watch the movie. At this point, this is my job. But it was like, I don't want to be forced to watch.
But like literally, you can see from like, so for our YouTube people, but for not, it's from like eye level down. So you can't see the top of his head. So when they bring the weapons down on the top of his head, you don't even really see the weapons enter his skull. Yeah. You see some blood go, but you only see him from like, let's call it the nose down. Yeah. So you don't see the weapons go. So and then Leonard steps up and then kind of finishes the job afterwards, showing that Leonard is the guy in charge. Kind of. But it's not overly gory ever in this movie, which I think was
I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought that was a good touch.
And then once again, you see that they're all kind of freaked out. Leonard goes and throws up immediately after what he's done, and then they take. He asks Adrian's help to take Redmond's body out of the cabin so that then I see Sabrina starts
scrubbing the floor,
just viciously,
yeah, they're clearly uncomfortable with the fact that they
and then we get another flashback quickly of the day that they adopted Wynn. And I thought it was interesting. So like they're sitting there at the adoption place. Yeah. And whoever comes up and goes, Mr. I don't know, I can't remember their last name.
Yeah, I don't fully remember. Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Such, and Eric goes, my wife couldn't be here today. This is her brother.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, because I think they're in like an adoption agency in China.
Possibly.
Yeah, and I think if they were a homosexual couple, they would not be allowed to adopt a child in China. Yeah.
So you see the first look at Wynn, and like there's a scar on her.
She doesn't have the scar. She has the hair clip.
Oh, she still has the hair lip.
She still has the hair lip. It's just because it hasn't been fixed yet while she was there. And then when they took her back to the States, then they fixed it.
Do you think that's something with that actress where like she actually has that, and then kind of
I wouldn't be surprised.
They wrote it in.
I remember I had like a friend in elementary school, so I don't know what he's doing now. It was one of those, but he had that little scar right there as well from like a hair lip or cleft lip, or I can't fool.
I thought it was hair lip.
I think it's like a hair lip, but then the medical term is like a cleft or something. But it's where it's like there's a split in the cleft palate of like someone's jaw where it's actually open, and then you can get surgery to shut it.
Got it.
Yeah.
But so it's just a flashback of them first meeting, the first getting Wynn.
Yeah.
So then next we back at the cabin. Yeah. They turn the TV on to kind of see what the result of the family not making a sacrifice and Redmond having to go through the ritual.
Also, I guess Eric's very concussed through all of this.
Yes, and I think that was a big thing why they waited so long, because obviously they wanted him to be in his right mind.
Yeah, to be able to make these decisions. But then that also is causing some like antagonism between Eric and Andrew, because Andrew's like, oh, you're just being loopy or you're not thinking right. Yeah. But then Eric, right before they kill Redmond, you're kind of seeing it from Eric's point of view, and there is like this light that enters the mirror right before they kill Redmond, and like you see this flash of light, and it looks just kind of like light to the camera.
Yeah, because since he's concussed, it was like he's very sensitive to light. He was asking him to close the blinds or whatever it is. And so they turn the TV on. Yeah. And first you get the cameo from MNight where he's like some infomercial about like fried chicken or something.
Air fried fried chicken. Yeah. Use an air fryer. It makes it very crispy. Air fryers are great. I love my air fryer. And then
it jumps to some news report about a tsunami hitting somewhere. There was an earthquake and it caused a tsunami. Yeah. Tsunami. Yeah. Maybe 4 hours earlier. And they're like, keep watching.
Because it's a very light tsunami. Because this whole thing is They kill Redmond. They release one of the apocalypse,
a plague
upon the earth. And the first thing that happens is it's a small wave, and that's why Eric and Andrew are like, this is nothing. What you
and also because it happened 4 years early, 4 hours early.
Exactly.
So then, but a second one hits.
Yeah, because even at this time too, all the 4 people, they're like, what happened? We didn't know what happened. And Leonard's like, wait, we haven't seen what we saw in our visions yet. So then while they're watching like the live news report or whatever.
Yeah, another tsunami, another earthquake hits in the middle of the ocean.
Well, 70 miles outside of Oregon or something.
Yeah, causing a tsunami that, actually hits landfall. And you get visions from, and it was like, this one really confused me as a movie. It was just like, you have live footage from this beach. For who? From
who? How did that person on their phone, they were just videotaping?
And it was just like, also, you see these massive wave coming and you're still filming? Like, what's going on? Hollywood, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, that's right, because like this beach scene, the huge waves coming, one dude takes off. And you're like, everyone else is just watching.
Everyone else is like,
what could that be? Fun fact, tsunamis were like one of the most terrifying things in the world to me as a child. I went to the beach a lot. Every time I went to the beach, I was like, I swear if a tsunami happens, I would be so upset. I'll be dead, but I'll be so upset before
you're going to be pissed while you're dead.
I'm going to be so upset.
You're just in your coffin
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But what I will say too is like, I think what frustrated me about them, the intruders pleading in case was just like, I think if they would have told them what would have happened before it happened, now it makes sense. But I think they were just waiting for something to happen. But if you had it in your vision, and you knew it was going to happen. They know it was
going to happen because they're like, I saw that rock in my vision. Why would you just say
exactly?
That?
So it's just like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, they kind of said it.
I don't think so. They never predicted what was going to happen.
They said,
I guess they said it in a biblical sense.
Yeah, in biblical sense. They're like, the seas will rise and sweep people.
Yeah, the sky will fall.
Yeah, they're like, the seas will rise and sweep people and cities into the ocean. A plague will consume the earth. Sky will fall. And
I'm going to need something more definite, sir. That's vague as hell.
Well, maybe the vision might not say,
hey. The vision, they saw the rock.
Yeah, that's right.
Adrian definitely said she saw the rock that was in that.
Yeah.
But it was, I think that's what was frustrating me as a movie girl. Just like, if you tell me what's going to happen and it happens, say less.
Yeah, that's fair.
Take me. Go on.
So would you have been able to sacrifice one of your family members?
I would have sacrificed myself. I would have been like, just take me out. Go ahead.
What if I don't want to?
I mean, that's on you.
Well, all right then.
This big man said I can't do it myself. Okay? Well, I'm not going to have my baby girl do
it. So now I got to do it.
I'll just talk shit about you until you get so angry.
That's fair. I can do it. That might do it. Yeah.
Your working out isn't really working.
And this will be the last episode we have.
So anyway, they after they see the footage of the tsunami, Leonard says, "You have a day to decide." So
the rest of the night.
I think the night. It's nightfall. So they get to rest for a bit. This you get another flashback, and it was just a quick one of them driving to the cabin.
Yes.
So it's just like they're singing the song "Boogie Shoes."
My Boogie Shoes. Yeah. Which was in the trailer and everything. Yeah.
I guess I don't remember it too much, but it was So
put on my boogie shoes. Yeah. I don't really know that song. Yeah.
I'm familiar with it, but same.
Yeah.
And so all three of them, both Wen, Andrew, and Eric, are singing it in the car on the way there. They get to the cabin, kind of amazed by it.
Yeah.
I think they were frustrated that it was like so far off the main road.
Well, Eric's a worry wart.
Yeah.
Because whatever it is, he's like, because you see in that flashback, he's like, careful with the doc, there could be rusty nails. And Andrew's like, Eric, relax. And he just takes off and jumps in.
And so, they go to the dock, and Andrew immediately just takes off his shirt, jumps in. Wen follows him.
Yeah.
And then Eric goes, he's like, oh, wait a minute.
So you got phone, wallet, keys, put all that down.
Which, I get it. What you mean? I'm not jumping in the water with my phone.
Yeah,
hoping the Horizon's cool with
it. There might be rice in the cabin. I don't know.
And so there's just a quick flashback or whatever. And then it jumps back to, I think, Sabrina and Eric in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And she's tending to his wounds.
Yeah.
Because he has a gash in the back of his head.
The concussion and all that.
She's just wrapping that and just telling him about the visions that she's had. I think it's more humanizing herself. And like I said, you saw when they had to execute Redmond that it is very much something that there's a certain something driving them.
Yeah, for sure.
This is not like of their own fruition or anything like that. Obviously, it's like they've had the visions, but it was just something that they aren't doing on their own.
Yeah.
And so they, I think she brings Eric back out to the living room. I think Wen and I think, Wen escapes briefly.
Yeah, this is probably like when Wen runs out. Because while they were talking and discussing stuff, Wen runs out and tries to get away.
She runs into the basement, and then you see where... Because there's a hole in the basement door from when Leonard had broken it. Mm-hmm. And then I guess you see that he had broken in through the cellar.
Question.
Yes.
Did you ever think she was going to get away? I've read the book, so like I kind of knew she wasn't going to get away, but I felt no tension from this scene at all.
I didn't either, just because of the way that it was like Princess Leia and Obi-Wan running in the woods.
Oh,
where, like she ran to get caught, so it was like she makes it out before Leonard.
Yes.
She's hiding in the woods behind a tree. Mm. She sees him walk in a certain a certain direction and starts running in that direction. Mm-hmm. What are you doing, lady?
Yeah, this was one of the weaknesses I was talking about earlier.
I think it was kind of dumb because it's also was like, what was that for?
Yeah,
we already know that you can't leave.
And that's like in the book that was a little more tense, a little more like what's going to happen. But right here, she like takes off, and you're like, I feel nothing. And I'm like, okay.
If anything, honestly, I thought she was going to get caught at the cellar door.
Yeah,
so we have to prolong.
Have another like 3 minutes of like her.
Because she literally sees this man walking in a direction. She's like, I bet he won't think I'll follow him. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Bro? So it was a quick, she runs away and gets caught. And then I think as they're sitting there, Andrew is still trying to, this is a shared delusion, he says, because they had mentioned that they had met on a message board.
Yes, online. Yeah, so a shared delusion. People meet online and they all like have like this shared experience on it, and they can just kind of keep deepening each other's like not real their fantasies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like because he had also mentioned, I think at this time Andrew starts recognizing Redmond.
Mm-hmm. Is this where he says
yes? Yeah. So there's kind of a flashback where you see that he was attacked in a bar.
Yes,
a few years prior, mm-hmm. and he was like, I'm pretty sure that was him.
That was him. The beard's different, but that's that guy that did it.
And he was like, he knew his name. He was like, it's not Redmond. Go get his wallet for proof. And I think it's causing a certain disruption between the group because once again they had never met one another.
Yeah,
because they said.
Yeah, they're unsure too. Because then all of a sudden they're like, wait. Did Redmond tell us to pick this cabin or whatever? And they're like, no, the visions were first.
I think he's still, now Andrew's on this, that guy wants revenge.
Yeah.
So he searched this out, got some mm-hmm. friends. Because he's still on this is some type of conversion thing, with the church.
Yeah, or we're being targeted. There's still something, this isn't real. This is not the apocalypse happening, mm-hmm. which I don't fully blame him for. He's, all right, yes, a wave happened, but that doesn't mean this is the apocalypse and my family and I are tied up in a house.
And so I think the next scene you see is Wen having breakfast
mm-hmm.
that Adrian has cooked because she had mentioned that she was, she worked at
a line cook.
And so and this is like sweet moment where she's saying, if you can make eggs, you can
make eggs good, you can make anything. Yeah. And that's true because eggs they're eggs. If you can doctor those up, that'd be cool. Yeah.
And then she says that Wen is very polite.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout this whole thing. And that was
meanwhile, Wen just stole something.
And so she sneaks the knife away from her breakfast and passes. She gives a hug to her dad, Eric.
Yep.
And I think does she start cutting it or she just gives it to him?
She gives it to him and he starts cutting it himself. Yeah.
And so he tells her, remember what you did at Christmas or something like that, or New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
When I give you the nod, do that.
Start yelling, screaming, whatever.
And you also see that
Andrew has started.
He's been working the ropes the whole, I guess, all evening, and his hands are almost out as well. So they're both trying to get out. And then so the time comes again where they need to decide, are you going to sacrifice some of your family?
Eric's faltering a little bit here.
A little bit, yeah. And I think it's because of the fact that it's something that Sabrina had said to him in the bathroom about what her dad had said.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Eric was raised religious as well. Mm-hmm. Eric, because there was even the flashback when they were at the hospital, like he was looking at, there was a Jesus mural on the thing, and Andrew's like,
I think he was playing soccer or something like that.
Yeah, or something. Yeah. But it's clear Eric was raised religious, so all this talk of the apocalypse and seeing stuff, on top of being concussed, he's kind of thinking, way before Andrew ever does, he kind of thinks this might be real. Yeah.
And so Adrian is the next, and she says, cards on the table, I'm next, I have a son, whatever the stuff, but
I don't want to die.
They, still don't care, so she gets sacrificed.
Yep. They're like, F your son.
And then they turn on the TV, and this is where you're talking about the next plague.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and this is why I was confused. It was like, are their deaths causing the plagues or prolonging the apocalypse? delaying the apocalypse.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
So from what my understanding is each time it was their deaths was kind of like the release. So in biblical terms,
that's what I thought. But it was just like as I was reading something earlier for this researching, it was saying that like Redmond's death had delayed the apocalypse. So it's just like, were they killing themselves to hopefully give the family more time?
So I'm pretty sure this is like a difference between the book and the movie.
Okay.
Because in the book, I'm pretty sure it was the delay.
Okay.
In the
that's
movies,
why I was getting confused. Yeah. Because it was like, it was saying both, and I was just like, it can't be both.
Yeah, because in the movie, they had a much more apocalypse, four horsemen of the apocalypse. And so what happens in the apocalypse is each of the four horsemen have a seal. They break the seal, and that releases whatever on the earth. So yeah, movie is four horsemen breaking seals. Book was, if I remember correctly, and I literally read it during COVID. I read it during the plague. Was that it was delaying the inevitable.
Okay, yeah, got it. And so so they turn on TV. They see that there's in South Africa there's some virus that's going around that's infecting children that are 10 and younger.
10 and under, yeah.
And it was like in the United States and somewhere in Africa. Like it was a few places.
It was like Tennessee, Cape Town. Or like Nashville,
like the Northeast, Cape something Town, about the Northeast,
and then like another
Seattle maybe. But anyway, so Adrian's Sacrifice and Next Plague gets released, and this is when they plan their escape. So Eric gives Wen the signal. She starts crying, saying that she wants something on the TV. Yeah. And so Leonard is trying to calm her down because once again he's a second grade teacher. And it was like this is what I was saying earlier. It was just like when he approached her in the woods, you could see that. One, it was just in his nature to be around kids.
Yep, absolutely.
To de-escalate things, and
he's a solid teacher.
Yeah. And so while Leonard and Sabrina, the remaining the intruders, are trying to calm Wen down, Eric finally cuts his restraints and he goes to protect Wen from Leonard, and then Andrew slips out of his restraints and quietly sneaks out. And I was like, I don't know what happened to his leg. I guess I never saw it.
I think it was something because it was around his boots or something, so he could kind of slip out or something, was it? Or
I don't know, because he also untied his legs as well after he got his hands up. But it was like he was limping around for the rest of the movie.
Well, so he wasn't limping yet. So
he was limping out of the cabin.
I don't think he was limping out. I thought he was tiptoeing out of the cabin.
I thought it was more as a limp because I felt like he could have ran once he got out. But
he didn't. Yeah, that's fair. Maybe he wasn't trying to because then as soon as he gets to the car or the truck to try and get his gun, that's when
he does get stabbed.
She has the sledgehammer with the knife on the end. She kneecaps him. Hits him right in the side of the knee.
Got it. Okay.
And so maybe
I'm wrong.
Yeah, and that's why
I guess I was just wondering why he didn't run initially. Yeah. But anyway, so Eric and Wen are in the house fighting off Leonard, and Andrew runs to the car and has an exchange with Sabrina. She hits him, but he keeps going. Yeah, he gets to the back seat, unlocks the gun case.
It's a thumbprint gun case,
and then he has to load the.
Which sure, it's in a thumbprint gun case.
I was like, at this point, have at least one magazine fully loaded.
Yeah.
But so as he's loading the magazine, she's stabbing him as well in his side.
Right. Yeah. Ow. Yeah.
And then, but he fights it off. Maybe it's just adrenaline.
Yeah. Well, also she's being very tentative. She's kind of jabbing at him.
Because she's also
she doesn't want to kill him.
She can't kill him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so he loads the gun and sits back in the car and aims it at her and fires.
He fires to the right.
But he fires to the right, so just to scare her off, and she runs off.
Yep. Yeah.
So he goes in the house and kind of restrains Leonard and is like, get away from them, and then. You have Sabrina coming back in because I assumed I was like, she's next.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she kind of does suicide by copping over. Yeah. She just runs at him, gets shot, and you get another flashback.
Yep.
And this is a scene where they're in a bar, and this is right before they adopt Wen.
Yeah, right before.
And they're making a list of their faults, I believe. And it was just I think this is what you were mentioning about he was an over-planner.
Warrior, all that, yeah.
And Andrew, a guy comes over because they're in a bar. A guy comes over and says, "Can you guys be quiet?" And this is where you see the disparity in their personalities. Where Andrew's like, "Well, we're being loud."
Yeah, yeah.
And Andrew's very much like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
Yeah, fuck you stupid drunk. Yeah.
And so the guy, I guess,
comes up, hits him in the head with a bottle.
Yes.
Yeah, breaks a bottle on his head and attacks him.
Yeah, and then you kind of see, you can't really see the face, but they do make it seem like it does kind of look like
Red. It was kind of like a redheaded dude. Yeah, like a red beard. But honestly, in that flashback, I didn't think it was him.
But it was once. I think that was the point.
Yeah, I think that was because it was okay, it's a dude with reddish hair and a big red beard, but with the hat and the beard, I was like, "Is that him?" And that was on purpose for sure, of like to be ambiguous.
And then still in the flashback, you see that Andrew starts training because he self-defense classes. Because he doesn't want that to ever happen again, and then he also goes and gets a gun.
Which with that scene, he's like breathing heavy. He's like,
I was just like, man, calm down.
I'm like, dude, no one should sell a gun to you because he's like looking at the gun. He's like, yeah, that gun will be great. And I'm like, whoa, buddy, come on now.
That was a little like. So we're not picking up on this.
Yeah, I'm like, so you're gonna sell a gun to this man?
A sale's a sale, apparently. Jesus,
they're in Virginia.
And so it jumps back to the. It jumps back to the present. Leonard finishes off Sabrina because she had just been shot. So he finishes the ritual. They turn on the TV, and you see that the next plague is just planes falling from the sky
out of nowhere for no reason.
And then this is finally where you get Leonard. He turns his back to the TV towards the family because he's the only one left now, and them. And he starts reciting the words that the newscaster is saying. And it was like, this is the kind of that proof. And also you have Eric, because like I said, he's been slow but surely changing his mind about the whole situation.
Is this before or after the bathroom, and before or after Andrew gets the Redmond's ID?
This is
I'm blanking on it.
I think around the same time.
Yeah, because it all happens.
So like right. So as I think when Leonard was finishing off Sabrina, he went to go get the ID.
Yes, he got the ID, and we do see that Redmond is the same dude.
Yes, it's Rory O'Connor or something.
Yeah, like O'Bannon.
O'Bannon.
Yeah.
And so,
which just confirms to Andrew, he's like, okay, this isn't real at all.
Yeah, because he was saying the whole time, it was like since they were checking their watches and everything was so timed, that they knew that they had planned these newscasts and stuff like that.
But so that happens. He puts them in the bathroom.
Yes.
The bathroom scene happens, and then he quotes it, right?
Yeah, probably
around that same time.
So it's just he after Leonard finishes off Sabrina, Andrew use it with the gun. Puts Leonard in the bathroom. You hear a loud crash. And this is once again stupid movie things. We were just like, Leonard, if you're not in there, I'll kill you. Because now they're trying to figure out. He realized when he went to go get the gun that the tires are slashed on the car. So he was like, they must have a car. They had to get here somewhere because it is a remote part of the woods. They can walk here. So it was like we need to find where they are, where their car is, and get out of here. But since Leonard has left he heard the crash, the window in the bathroom. It was like, well, he might be out there. And so he opens the door. The bathroom's empty. The glass is shattered.
Well, but I'm looking
out the window. I was like, what giant would have fit through that hole?
Andrew and Eric can't fit through that window. Leonard certainly can't fit through that window.
And so, like, there's obviously a tub there with the shower curtain. He shoots the shower curtain, and then he gets attacked. He does hit. He does hit Leonard though. Because he's bleeding a little bit later.
A little bit in the arm.
So he does hit him in the arm, but Leonard fights through it, attacks Andrew, gets the gun.
Then turns on the TV.
And, you see that the planes are falling out of the sky. And now he starts reciting
what the newscaster is saying,
right before she says it.
Exactly.
And I was like, this is kind of more proof for Eric because he had mentioned that he had seen that flash before Redmond had got killed.
And Andrew is like, how the hell are you doing this? Did you pay somebody? What did you do to do this? And then I guess because the second day everything's moving super quick in the movie as well. So then,
Leonard is like, it's almost the end. I want to do this outside.
Exactly.
So he leads them to the back porch, and Eric or Andrew, one of them, I believe it's Eric. He seems the more nurturing one. Eric tells Wen to go to the treehouse with her headphones, turn them on loud, and just wait for one of us to come. And so Leonard has this last plea. He's sitting on a chair outside, and he's like, "Can you please, would you sacrifice?" And they're standing still on the no. So he says the last humanity has been
judged,
and then he slits his own.
Which is.
But he also says before that, he says you'll have a few minutes, to make the decision after I'm gone. And then as soon as he's gone, you see storm clouds raging, there's lightning striking and stuff like that.
Also, this is where it differs from the book at this point in time.
So literally, it had been different at that point.
So once
Sabrina's gone.
once Sabrina's dead, it differs. Exactly.
But yeah, so then they have this. This is when Eric starts realizing that each one of them were basically, like you were saying, the four horsemen. That's why I was trying to avoid the four horsemen thing until it got to the end.
Yeah.
But obviously, even I caught that like in the trailer.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
He realized that the four horsemen of the apocalypse, each one of them brought something. So it was like there's nurturing. There was
malice from Redmond, nurturing from Sabrina. Nurturing from Adrian, healing from Sabrina, and guidance from Leonard. Yeah.
And so like each one of them had that thing, and it was like you see Eric just like, I saw what I saw. Like, do you? And he was like, do you want your daughter to like live in a destroyed Earth?
Yeah, because they told him in the beginning, if they don't do it, Andrew, Eric, and Gwen will be able to just wander the Earth as the only people left alive. Yes. And Andrew's like, we could do that, and Eric's like, and just the only three of us, that's not a life for Gwen. Yeah. That's not fair. And you have this beautiful little, like, Eric closing eyes, like, I see a future of you and Gwen together. And, like, Gwen's grown up. She has her own practice. Her and Andrew are going out to dinner. Super touching scene. And you're like, that's nice. Yeah.
And then, so Eric decides that he's the one that needs to be sacrificed. Andrew shoots him with a gun.
Yep. Off screen.
Yeah. And then Andrew, you see Gwen, and this is a nice little, I think it's one of those horror movie things or something like that, where just like, she's waiting, and then in the treehouse, and then you see Andrew pop up. But in the horror movie, it would have just been like a jump scare or something. But Andrew goes in, and the rain starts falling.
Yeah. And then she says, "Did Daddy Eric save the world?" That was nice.
And so then they walk to the main road. They see the car that the four horsemen had used.
This is kind of where the movie starts getting a little worse. Just throwing that out there. The ending, in my opinion, like that's when I mentioned also weak scenes. Yeah. So once it differs from the book, it starts going downhill.
Yeah. And this is the Shyamalan of it. That's what I'm saying. It's just like, if you're not, and it sucks because it's like, I don't want to say to have a creative checked. Yeah. But in a way, just certain things, like other writers or another, like get other eyes on it.
Yeah. Everything that Paul Tremblay wrote up to, which was before Leonard killed himself by slitting his own throat. So with Sabrina dying, that was like pretty much identical with the book, and that was great.
But this ending kind of
Dave Bautista monologue was great. Dave Bautista at the end, his part was great. That was original, awesome. But then like an hour wandering, now we're driving down the road.
Yeah, so they find the car that the four horsemen had used. This is his truck. They drive to a diner, and you still see Andrew limping and stuff like that. So they go to the diner. On the news at the diner, you see that the different disasters have subsided. So the tsunami, they're looking for survivors. The plane crashes, no more plane crashes, and things.
The plague had stopped killing people.
Yeah, and then the lightning had, like the storms had stopped as well.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of confirmation that what the four horsemen were saying were true. Yeah, and then they go back to the car. He checks the back seat and he sees all the bags from the four horsemen. So like, he sees Sabrina's ID badge saying that she was a nurse. You see a picture of Leonard with his students and it's like all signed. Yeah. And you see a picture of Adrienne and her son. Yep. And then you see an ID from Redmond.
That's all we need to see at Redmond. We're good. I don't want to see any of your personal stuff. I feel like
you're kind of a I guess because he's top billed, kind of because of who he is. It was like that he was in the least. Yeah. That the actor, not the character, and then like so they go right before they go to drive off. One of them turns on the radio and it's Boogie Shoes again, and I think. And then Andrew turns it off, as if to say, not right now, because of who they lost or what they've been through. And then Gwen turns it back on, and then even she kind of realizes, maybe not. Yeah. And then Andrew turns it back on, and they drive off. Yeah. And end of the movie.
I wish they would have driven off listening to Boogie Shoes.
They did.
No, they didn't.
Oh, he turned it off?
So they did. So they did, but
the movie
did not.
Got it.
So they drove off.
Actually, that would have capped it off.
And then, but instead, and I guess the MNight Shyamalan of it was that in the truck instead they stopped listening to Boogie Shoes, and you hear this like epic score, and I'm like, it's a good score. Don't get me wrong, but it did not match the tone of what we just had. And and that's the movie. They drive off into the sunset together. So at the end of all of our podcasts, I always like to revisit our original ratings. Mike, you gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Do you stick to that rating?
I do. I think like you were saying, I think like I said, I really enjoyed how the book handled things. But I think Hollywood is just not tough enough to do that now.
Yeah, exactly. Read the book. I'm not going to spoil that, but it does have a different ending.
But it was like, it did kind of, and also very, very rushed. I don't know if that was to add to the the anxiety, like the anxiousness of it, or it was just like they kind of spent so long in that intro, those first two acts, that they kind of had to rush. It was like when we watched The Pale Blue Eye. You know, it was just like a lot of that stuff seemed rushed because of the fact that they leaned so heavy into those first two acts to get you this background. So I'll stick with a 3.5. I think it would. If honestly, I would probably give it a 4, and then I had to bump it down to a 3.5 after discussing. So
I'm going to keep with the 4 because I think the performances of everyone was still excellent, and going through was great. The ending wasn't as good, in my opinion, as the book's ending, but it was still a pretty solid ending, and it was handled very well. And also, I'm just tickled that Dave Bautista had such a great role, and I really hope this opens a lot of good roles for him as well. But yeah, that is the end of our show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a new movie. Mike, how are they going to reach you? I'll do how they reach us in a second. Mike, how can they reach you? You
can reach you on IG at Days from Legendary.
Awesome. If you'd like to reach out to both of us or the two Meddling Kids, our Gmail is at two meddlingkids at gmail.com. Twitter and Instagram is 2meddlingkids. Same with YouTube. And then if you'd like to reach out to me personal, I am at edhunt77. So again, thank you everyone for listening. Honestly, check out the movie, I would say. And if you want to get the book, shop local. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Catch everybody.
Bye.